Okay, so today I'm actually gonna do basically a part two of my June thrift store finds or thrift store hauls. I had to do a part two because I definitely couldn't stay away from the thrift stores for the last week or two. So I picked up some more additional things, which I will talk to you about in a minute. So I'll start off by going over my vinyl records that I picked up. This is the best of Stan Getz. $4.79 is not what I paid for. It's actually the price tag, I guess, when it was sold originally. I'm a big fan of jazz musicians and especially Stan Getz. I'm not a big fan of the first side. I heard a few tracks from it. It kind of sounds kind of like very orchestral, especially his rendition of "Blowing in the Wind." But I am a big fan, however, of his bossa nova tracks, which are basically on side two. But the record sleeve is in nice shape. The record, I'd probably give it maybe like a good grade. I mean, it's not the best. Got a few scratches on it. Let me see if I can. So I was able to get the record out, and as you can see, it's in decent shape. I just cleaned it a minute ago. And the record sounds okay, but I would probably wouldn't give it higher than probably like a good rating. So this is side two. Few scratches that are a little bit more evident there. But when I played it, it didn't sound too bad. A little noisy, but not too much. The next record I found was "Welcome" by Carlos Santana, or Santana the band. I was listening to a few tracks of this record, and it's okay. I mean, it's not your typical Santana record that has a lot of that Latin rhythm, except for a few tracks here. But I do like the song "Love, Devotion, Surrender." I actually have that same track on another record that I've listened to. That it's actually Carlos Santana and John McLaughlin. So that's a good look at the band. Nothing really on the back. The record's in decent shape. Let me see if I can pull it out one-handed. Like I mentioned earlier, the record's in decent shape. There's a few hairlines, but it's very playable still. The other side is pretty decent as well. Just a few hairlines. I would probably say that this is probably a very good condition record. Next record I came across, this was found at a Salvation Army. Y Gourmet and Los Trio Los Panchos. This is a great Spanish music. If you're not familiar very much with music from Mexico, this was in the United States. There was a lot of crooners and trios, I would say. Mexico was basically the same thing. There were trios there that played a more Latin style of the trios that was happening here in the States. And Los Panchos is a very well-known trio, originally actually from Puerto Rico. But their music has become very popular in Latin America. And Edie Gourmet is a singer from here, from the United States. And at one point during the '60s, they collaborated and sang a couple of songs, some of those Pancho songs together. And these are a very well-known songs, all of them. And the record wasn't in the best shape, but I really didn't buy it for the record. I actually had, if I can get this out one-handed, I actually found this record along with an extra copy. I guess there were two copies of the same record in one of my thrift store finds, because I have this record already. But this came, and this one was the least. I mean, they're both in pretty good condition, but this one has a few hairlines. So what I did is I ended up having to leave this record basically inside another loaner sleeve. But now that I have a sleeve for the actual record, I can put this record in. So now I basically have a match. Next, we have a copy of the Commodore's Greatest Hits. I've had a copy of this record before. And the problem with that copy was that I think at one point it was warped. So someone took the record and they tried repairing it, but in doing so, they ended up creating damage to the record where the record will still play, but it does warble a little bit, especially in the parts that are sunken in. Because I guess I don't know if they tried to iron it flat or whatnot, but it's not. It warbles. It's got some kind of texture problems that the needle doesn't make really good contact. I came across this copy of it, of the Greatest Hits, and it's in very good condition. Let me see. So yeah, so this is in a very decent shape. I mean, it's a little dirty, but at least it won't warble like my copy that I have already. Another vinyl record that I came across was a copy of the Two's first album. I am not a huge fan, but I've heard that this album's pretty good. The best song on this album supposedly is White Punks on Dope. So the album that was found in pretty good condition. Let me see if I can pull that out. So that's the album's condition. It's very shiny. So it plays decent. So I haven't heard the whole thing. I heard like maybe 1 or 2 tracks. So I'm going to give that album a listen and see what I think of it. And another album that I was very fortunate to find was this copy of an album titled Early Cream. Definitely a big fan of Eric Clapton and Cream. Some of the songs that are here are the same ones that are in the... Well, actually, this track right here, Louise, is on the Cream of Eric Clapton DVD video. So I'm kind of looking forward to listening to that song because I don't have this on CD or on vinyl. It was in decent shape. There's a few little bit of wear there. I've listened to both sides already, and it plays okay. I don't think this vinyl is of the best quality solely because the sound is not very good. But I think this is basically kind of like a compilation type of record that came out in the 70s. So it does have decent tracks in it. So I'm basically gonna listen to it just for that. The next record that I also got was The Best of Wes Montgomery Volume 2. These are all his Verb releases. I'm becoming more of a fan of this jazz musician because I just think he's incredible. Bumpin' is probably one of my most favorite songs that he's played on. I really like that song. I've taken a little bit of time to listen to some of these tracks, and I haven't just had a chance to sit down and listen to them thoroughly, so I'm going to probably do that. The record was in decent condition. I mean, let me see if I can pull that out. So you can see that actually this record is actually in pretty good condition. Yeah, because I don't really even see any scratches on it. Okay, so next we have the tapes. Tapes are becoming more and harder to find, at least the good ones. But I was lucky at my outing at the Salvation Army. I found a copy of Wings, The Greatest Hits. I definitely want to give this a listen to because I have basically a Greatest Hits on CD and a Greatest Hits on vinyl, but I don't have the tape version of this. So I'm going to go ahead and give it a look and listen to it on one of my tape players that I've just fixed. And I didn't have any copy of this, so this would be the first copy I have of the album, but this is Double Fantasy by John Lennon and Yoko Ono. This is supposed to be John Lennon's last album that was released prior to his death. So it's in decent shape. Okay. So as you can see, we have a pretty big stack of CDs. I got very lucky at the thrift store. I bought each one of these for about $2. But it was worth it because I usually don't buy that many in one sitting. But this stack right here was basically all picked up on the same day, except for a few of them. But I'm gonna go into the stack and just kind of go over everything. So I'll start off with Wingspan, which is Paul McCartney's and Wings' greatest hits compilation album that was released sometime in 2001. I remember this being advertised on TV. I never picked it up, but I'm finally happy that I got this because I'm really enjoying Wings' music. Soundgarden, I think this is, I don't know if this is their first or second album, but I'm happy that I was able to purchase this. I think it was one of the Soundgarden albums I was missing. This was not found at the same place as the other albums, but I did pick this up at one of the Goodwills. It's got Tom Sawyer, and I'm a little bit familiar with the other songs, but this is another band that I'm also enjoying quite a bit. And I got another Paul McCartney album. This is back in the U.S. This is a live album. It's got a lot of good songs here that I'm gonna enjoy listening to. This album also came sealed, so I'm kind of looking forward to opening it and listening to it. And then I found Driving in the Rain. This is a song. This is an album that I think it was released after Flaming Pie. I haven't heard the best things about this album, but I'm trying to get as many of Paul McCartney's solo albums as I can because he's got really good music that I'm really enjoying as well. I'm probably going to give this a fair try and see if I can enjoy it because I don't know why people say it's not very good, but I'm going to give it a try. And then we got one of Paul McCartney's good solo albums. We got Flowers in the Dirt. This, I believe, let me see if I can, if it says, no, I don't think it says it in there. But I've heard that this was a collaboration with Elvis Costello, and this is one of his better albums. I can't wait to give it a try. And I found one of Paul McCartney's greatest hits albums from the 80s, I think. Yeah, this was released in 87, so it's got basically all the classic Wings songs and some of the from his solo albums in the 80s. And then a really good and album that I was excited to get my hands on was The Essential Miles Davis. I've found a few of his albums in some of the Goodwills lately, so I'm kind of excited that I was able to find this one. And then Nefertiti by or Nefertiti, Miles Davis. I heard this is one of his good albums. And then I was also fortunate enough to find the John Lennon collection. I'll be honest with you, John Lennon is not my favorite Beatle, but I want to also give his music a try because most people say that he probably had the most prolific solo career, but I'm just not a big fan. I actually always enjoy his music more when he was with the Beatles, but I haven't given his solo albums a try or a fair chance, so I'm gonna probably listen to some of his better songs from those, and then perhaps maybe give some of the albums a chance. And I did also find John Lennon's Plastic Ono Band. This is a remaster. I heard that this is probably one of his better albums aside from Imagine, so I'm probably gonna give this one a try as well. This album, I was listening to it yesterday, and I really like it. It's John Coltrane live in Antibes, somewhere in France, 1965. It's got some of his better songs. Of course, I'm a huge fan of Naima, and My Favorite Things is one of his more known songs. So I'm definitely going to enjoy listening to this again. And then Jimi Hendrix Blues. Haven't really read too much online about this album, but I know that it's a Jimi Hendrix rendition of a lot of well-known blues songs. So I've listened to some of this, and it's really good. I gotta sit down and listen to the whole album to give it a fair chance. I'm really enjoying what I'm listening to. And then a really good find was George Harrison, The Best of Dark Horse, 1976 to 1989. So this would probably be all the songs pretty much after his Dark Horse album, I would say. And yeah, obviously, Here Comes the Moon, I've never listened to. I'm probably going to give that a chance. Cloud Nine, I've listened to all those years ago. I'm familiar with. Got My Mindset on You is probably one of his more famous songs. Okay, so I'm probably going to give. And for the record, George Harrison is my favorite Beatle. So just to be clear on that. And then I also got some more of his music, but I think this has some of his music with the Beatles, because I know that Something is in Abbey Road. Here Comes the Sun is in Abbey Road. My song Gently Weeps is obviously in the White Album. My Sweet Lord is in his first solo album. Give Me Love, yeah. So I'm gonna definitely listen to this. Maybe in this order, probably this one and then that one. And then this album, I used to play this over and over again when I was a teenager. So I'm really excited to find a very clean copy of this because my original copy is probably trashed. But this is kind of a cool CD because it does have, you could put this on your computer and it does have like a music video by The Doors, but like a modern one. So there it is, the Ghost song. It's got interactive lyrics and online information. So yeah, so this disc will play the video for that song, the Ghost song. So I can't wait to listen to that. And then speaking of The Doors, I also found their original compilation, The Best of the Doors. This was not found at the same Goodwill. This was found at the Salvation Army. And obviously it's got a lot of their great songs. So I was happy to get my hands on that. And then I also found Depeche Mode Exciter. I've never listened to this album, but I listened to the first track yesterday and I kind of liked it. So I'm going to sit down and listen to the rest of it. This copy, it says here that is a copy for the Middle East. So I don't know if the songs are different here or not. Maybe someone can put that on the comments if someone watches my video of whether or not, if any of these tracks are different than on the US release version. But I'm happy that I have that album now. And I was also able to find a copy of David Bowie, Scary Monsters. I heard that this is one of his better albums from the 80s. And I'm familiar with some of these songs. I know that Ashes to Ashes is probably one of the best songs here. And I also heard Fashion. I'm going to give this album a chance. I've never really been disappointed with any of the Bowie albums. I own quite a few of them. So this is probably going to be a decent one. And then going more into the Beatles, I was able to find Let It Be Naked. I've heard about this album. This is a re-release of Let It Be. So I'm going to go ahead and give this a listen to. I did get a copy of Let It Be, which I'll show later on, but this was found at the same Goodwill where I found a lot of the Beatles albums. And then speaking of the other copy, this is the original copy of Let It Be. So now I own the original copy and then the re-release. I listened to this album quite a few times, so I'm very familiar with it. It's not my favorite Beatles album, but I love The Long and Winding Road. I mean, it's probably one of the best Paul McCartney songs. Let It Be. The Two of Us is one of my favorite songs too. Across the Universe is really good. So, and then this is not one of my favorite Beatles albums, but I bought it because it's missing from my Beatles collection. This is Yellow Submarine. Uh, I've always heard that "Hey Bulldog" is a really good song, so I'm gonna give that a chance. But I've never really been a fan of the movie or the song "Yellow Submarine." Sorry, Ringo. I'm just I don't really get it, and it's not one of the better songs. But I will listen to "Hey Bulldog" because I heard that's the best song from this album. So I'm gonna give that a chance. Then I was very excited to get the Beatles' very first album, "Please Please Me." A lot of people say that their later music was great, and I absolutely agree with that. But I am partial to the earlier stuff as well because I don't know. I enjoy pop music. I call it a guilty pleasure, but I really enjoy some of their earlier stuff as well as the older stuff. I just love everything about the Beatles. It's just I guess in my memories, my earliest childhood memories are always going to be connected to the earlier stuff, like "Please Please Me." I saw her standing there. Do you want to know a secret? That stuff is always going to stay with you because that's probably the first Beatles music most people heard first. So, but I really enjoy this album, even though they're not as highly regarded as the other albums that they released later on. Another album that I really enjoy is probably one of my favorite Beatles albums is "With the Beatles." It's got a lot of songs that I really enjoy here. "All My Lovin'" is a song that I always try to learn on guitar, especially that solo. Was one of my favorite things to listen to and to try to play. But all these songs are great. Really enjoy. I'm really happy that I was able to find my copy of this. There's a separate stack here, and this is because some of these are doubles. And I'm probably going to go into my garage where I can listen to them. But I got Bill Withers' Greatest Hits. I already have a copy of this, but I found another copy of it. And this is a lot of good music that Bill Withers has. Don't really hear his name heard that often. I mean, I don't know if it's just me, but the guy is a little bit underrated to me because he put out some really good songs. That's just some of the songs that he put out right there. And then I got another copy of Magical Mystery Tour. This copy is damaged, so I bought a new copy to replace the damaged one. This is the damaged one. I don't know what happened there. It's really scratched up, and I'm probably trying to find a place that will resurface this CD so that way I can play it on my CD player because it's really, really scratched. But I think it's salvageable if we can get someone to resurface it. And then I already have a copy of Abbey Road, but the copy that I found at that Goodwill where I found the rest of these was a better condition copy. So this is going to go into the garage so that I can listen to on my CD player in the garage. Abbey Road. I mean, nothing much to say about it. This is not the re-release. This is the old version, but I mean, I will eventually get the re-release, but I enjoyed this original version. And then I got another copy of Changes by David Bowie. I already have a copy of this, but the copy that I found was in better condition than this one. This one's a little bit scratched. It still plays okay. It's just a little scratched. And then I found the very best of Prince. Really liking his music. A lot of music that I didn't even know that he had made. So I'm enjoying it. It definitely has some of his better songs. But I can definitely enjoy this. And then Jimi Hendrix Experience. I already have a copy of this, but I couldn't pass up buying another copy just to have in the garage. And this copy was very clean. And I found this along with the blues one that he... And then I found another copy of Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction. The copy that I found was actually sealed still. But it's going to replace this copy because this copy is a little bit scratched. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you could definitely see that. It's really scratched. So that's going to need to be resurfaced eventually. But This copy still plays well enough, and I'm probably going to just keep that in the garage. So that is basically all the media that I found this month. Now I will go over to talk about the hardware. Okay, so I will start off with the big components. So I found this Scott AM FM stereo synthesized receiver. It's port locked and it's model RS 250. Not much that I've heard about this amplifier, but it was so cheap that I really didn't feel like passing it up. It's not very high wattage. Let me see if I can get this turned around. Yeah, so this is probably I don't know if that's, no, I think that's just the power. I'll be honest with you, I haven't really found too much information about this amplifier, but it sounded okay at the Goodwill, so I ended up picking it up. I mean, I think it was only like $7.99 or something like that. And I needed just something to test some speakers that I bought. This is from 1990. And this is made in Korea. But I mean, it's decent enough. I mean, it's not anything special. It says there that it goes up to 25 watts. I'm assuming that's 25 watts per channel. So I think this is like a 25 watt receiver. So we'll see if I can find more online. I'm not sure if I'm gonna ever do a demo on this, so that's why I'm kind of just showing you everything. And then the next thing that I found was something that I don't have in my collection, and this is a Betamax. I knew about Betamaxes from back in the 80s, but I know that it was a format that never really took off. And I know that V Westlife has done a video on this exact model. And I saw this model at a Goodwill. I think it was half price. I think I paid like about $12.50 for it. A little bit more than what he paid. But the tapes are not very easy to find. And I actually had to order like 2 tapes to test this because I don't even know if it works or not. So I'm gonna go ahead and possibly show a demo on this, hopefully without getting copyrighted. It was funny because I was trying to find a way to find the input to test these ports. These ports do work, but what ended up happening is as soon as you plug something into here, it automatically cancels out any of the RF signal or the signal that it gets from the VCR itself. So there's no switch to switch between the line in. So that was kind of interesting to discover there, but I will see when I get those tapes and maybe I'll do a demo. So the next piece of hardware that I found was this Discman. Yes, I already have one, but the problem with that other one is that it skips quite a bit, and as good a sound these have, and honestly, one of the big selling points of owning one of these, if you don't want a CD player to take up too much space in your setup, is that they all have these lines out. The newer CD players don't have that, so that's one big advantage. But I was happy to get this because it's basically of the same quality. This is a little newer. This is from 91. The one that I have inside my home is from 89. But I like it because, and I will show this in a minute, but it has a backlit display. And the discs tend to not skip as much on this one than on this one. So that's why this one's going to become my main Discman. And luckily, it also came with the car charger, which I will show in an instant. And it also came with the power supply. Okay, this is about 9 volts and about 900 milliamps. It also came with a car charger for what I paid for it. I mean, I think I paid $12.99 for the CD player and the this and the power supply. So I already went online and checked the specs, and they both have basically the same specs. So this is going to be my new one, and it's got that really good opening action. And then last but not least, I have these Rogers Sound Labs speakers that I found. These were found at a thrift store that's close to my house. It's the same thrift store that had the other Rogers Sound Labs speakers that are now inside my den, my theater room. So these speakers, when I found them, were damaged. Let me see if I can take that off. So what ended up happening is that this plastic here had completely disintegrated and fallen apart. So what I did is I went ahead and took the woofer apart. I cleaned it out. I had to take this ring off. This ring was glued on there. So I was able to detach it, and I was able to find the rubber online. The ring, this is like an 8-inch speaker. So I was able to find the ring and reattach this, I guess that you call it a woofer. I was able to reattach it, and then now it works perfect. These have decent sound. I mean, they're not very high output. Let me see if I can show the back of it. I mean, these have 60 watt, 4 ohm output and impedance. So I mean, it's not going to be the most clearest, best sound, but they sound okay. So I'm probably going to keep these around. These are made in Japan. So, I mean, they sound good enough. So I'll definitely keep these around, especially now that I fixed them. I don't know exactly how much they're worth, but I know they're definitely worth more now that I fixed them. That basically wraps it up for the month of June. I will put up another video, and hopefully it won't be a two-parter because I'm trying to not spend so much. It's kind of hard since you've been cooped up inside and you're finally out, and you kind of are a little bit more eager to buy stuff more than usual. But I'm very happy with the pickups that I made, especially now that I have a lot of the Beatles albums, and I can go ahead and start putting that collection behind me and kind of move on to something else. But nonetheless, this is I guess part 2 of the June pickup videos. I hope you enjoyed my video today, and leave a comment or a thumbs up if you enjoyed this video, or a thumbs down if you didn't. And hopefully we'll catch each other again in the next video. Thank you.